Kia ora koutou katoa. Today is Pentecost, where the church celebrates the coming of the Spirit. Spirit is a word with a variety of meanings and much history. Spirit can be thought of as the essence or energy of a person or a group's life. Some might take it a bit further and link essence and energy with what matters most, or what is at the heart of a person or a group. So someone's spirit might, in essence and at heart, be joyous, or be caring, or be serene, or holy. Similarly, the spirit of a group, like a church or an organization, might be joyous, caring, serene, or holy. Or none of these things, or a mix of these things. Sometimes the spirit might be destructive, even evil. When church language uses the words Holy Spirit, usually what is being referred to is the essence or energy that was known in Jesus. The Holy Spirit was around before Jesus and after him. It's described with phrases in church speak like transformative justice, or joyous abandon, or counterintuitive wisdom, and of course in that big word, love, aroha nui. It is a spirit that can be known in churches and in other communities, a spirit that can be known in you and me and among us. The first reading today, I got an itchy eye here, is the fable of Babel, the Tower of Babel. And the question we bring to the text is, what is the spirit that is driving these people? It seems from the little we told, it's a small pericope, that story, that it's a story of people coming together, finding a common means of communication, a common language, and in their unity embarking on an ambitious building project. This sounds like success. They plan out a city, they plan out a tower with its top in the heavens. It's a symbol, a beacon, a brand, proclaiming all things are possible. They've done what others consider impossible. This looks like success. This coming together, this city and tower, is not the result of one man's or one woman's drive and energy, or a group of leading men or women. There's no inspiring leader to the fore with their face plastered on billboards and on the TV. Instead, like many truly great endeavors, the people said, "We did it," and the leaders applauded the people. Success indeed. But probably to their great surprise, their God is not impressed. Remember, it's a fable. And their God doesn't give reasons, save saying, nothing they propose to do now will be impossible for them. And we scratch our heads and say, what? Is this God falling into tall poppy syndrome? Is this God jealous or threatened by humanity's success and potential for more? Really? And if this God is thinking what they're doing is wrong, hey God, how about a sit down and a talk through the differences, rather than just squash the whole thing? Isn't some activity, God, better than none? Some interpreters make a lot of the description of the tower with its top in the heavens and draw the inference that the people wanted to be like God, with a type of lofty power of the gods. So the destruction of the tower was not dissimilar to the destruction of idols, which is a recurring theme in the Hebrew scriptures. But there is nothing in this fable that implies that the people saw themselves as gods, or were or wanted to worship other gods. like a big corporation today might. They simply wanted to build a great, inspiring place to live and work. Though maybe like a big corporation today, they felt in the headiness of their success there would be no need for a God, especially this demoralizing one. Other interpreters see this critique of the Babel building program as a critique of the city of Babylon. Other interpreters see it as an ideological tale, a story of origins, explaining how the earth got multiple languages and positing the idea that there was originally just one tongue. I choose to read this Babel fable as a cautionary tale about spirit. Sometimes our ability to and excitement about making something gets ahead of the ethical considerations of should we, or for what purpose. Sometimes corporations, church, business, government think that because we can, or because it will look great, or because it will please or benefit our members, or because it will be profitable, therefore we should. We should build our cities, build our towers, do the impossible, expand, develop, grow. It's a constructive, busy spirit. But for what ends? Maybe those words like success, benefit, greatness, profit, and growth need to be measured against considerations like the well-being. Well-being in its broadest sense. Shalom is one of the biblical words for well-being. Well-being of the whole planet, both now and into the future. How does what we're building affect the mental health of the young? What does what we're building affect the bird and insect life? How does what we're building make a better living environment for our grandchildren after we are long dead and gone? How does our busy, constructive spirit enhance the spirits of all life on this planet? So I read this story through what could be called an eco-theological lens. Then our lectionary, the prescribed readings for each Sunday, give us another reading about spirit. Acts chapter 2, on the day of Pentecost. Some would say this is the reading about spirit. Luke, the author, splits up the resurrection of Jesus into three movements. One is out of the grave. Another is 40 days later, when the ghost like Jesus who came out of the grave ascends into the heavens. And then the third movement is 10 days after that, when from the heavens the Spirit descends, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of Jesus. This last descending movement is accompanied by wind, fire, many languages, much understanding, and much joy. However, other gospel writers don't have these three movements. Jesus' Spirit is never left. To understand why Luke does this ascend-descend thing with wind and fire, you need to hear the echoes from the book of Kings and the stories of Elijah and his student, his disciple, Elisha. For it's all about the passing on of spirit. As Elijah had ascended into the sky where God was said to dwell, and Elisha's spirit had then descended upon Elisha, his disciple, so Jesus ascended and his spirit descended on his students, his disciples. The point of these stories is not to make us believe in supernatural phenomena. Rather, they deliberately use pictorial language and images to help us make connections. The point of the stories is to follow Jesus, to make real his ongoing spirit in our lives. We need to, like Elisha, put on Elijah's mantle, the spirit of Elijah, and prioritize what he prioritized. Now Elijah appears in only 6 chapters of the book of Kings. He lives in Canaan, where there is polytheistic worship. The Canaanites have a number of deities, one of whom is Baal. The Jews have just one deity, Yahweh. Prudent kings, like politicians, try to keep the peace by keeping the majority happy and appeasing the gods, all the gods. Prophets do not do keep the peace or appease. Kings also expect to be obeyed. Prophets don't do obedience. No prizes for guessing that conflict is a common. Elijah, like Jesus, believed that kings and their subjects were accountable to Yahweh. Elijah believed that the dispossessed, the poor, the foreigner, the widow, the sick, the child, all those who don't have much money and don't get to vote that much, particularly in a patriarchal society, all these folk were part of God's whānau and needed to be treated with dignity, respect, and care. So for Elijah to be accountable, for a society, a king to be accountable to Yahweh, meant prioritizing these people on the margins. Such beliefs of Elijah come down to us in stories like that of Naboth's vineyard, where King Ahab, remember old Ahab, when you read the story, I think there's some later deliberate blaming of Jezebel, who's a foreigner. Anyway, Ahab desired this piece of land that belonged to Naboth. Naboth, didn't have the means or the power of the king. Ahab cooked up some false accusations, etc. All of which then was roundly condemned. Ahab roundly condemned by Elijah. Then there's the story of the widow of Zarephath, where though desperately poor and starving, she shares what little food she has with Elijah and is rewarded for doing so. The point of these stories is that the least, the Naboths, and the widow of Zarephath, doesn't get named, these people matter. Elijah and his God, Yahweh, are aligning with the least. And the least in the 9th century BCE were foreigners, widows, women, the poor, and children. Not too much different from today. They were the nuisances and the nobodies. Foreigners were not part of God's chosen people. Widows had no means of support unless taken in by extended family. The scholar Claudia Kemp points out that 5 of the 8 miracle stories involving Elijah and Elisha were with women. Women represent the groups struggling for survival, and the miracle story is a genre of empowerment. The faith and empowerment of a poor foreign widow, says Kemp, is then grafted into the faith legends of Israel to counter xenophobia, which raised its head many times, and the insidious heresy that wealth is a sign of God's approval. Heresy that's still alive and well today. To pick up and put on the mantle of Elijah, the mantle of Luke's Jesus, is therefore to be fearless in promoting the spirit and values of justice, mutuality, and the well-being of all life. This spirit asks for our ultimate allegiance. Kings, governments, enterprises, churches, all who hold power, whether they are religious or not, need to be accountable to these values that serve and hold us to the common good of our planet. And that good is measured by how good it is for the little and the least, those with little power. Pentecost is something of an ecclesial light and sound show. Metaphors of power, wind, whirlwinds, of promise, decorate the liturgies of the season. It's called by some the birthday of the church. There's sometimes a red cake to celebrate with. But Pentecost at its heart points us back to Elijah, to the hard and often lonely task of being the odd one out, the one who speaks up when everyone else is silent. To walk in the Spirit of Jesus is to walk with Elisha's mantle. It is to question the priorities of the successful and the powerful. It is to defend the weak. It is to empower the least. It is to hold up the values that are often contrary to the gods of our day. It is to be courageous. And as Elijah and Jesus learned, it is also to be often misunderstood. Blessings to you.